Why am I nasal breathing? I can go a whole lot faster if I breathe through my mouth, and it feels a whole lot easier. So we're going to discuss today 3 reasons why incorporating nasal breathing into your conditioning is going to lead to increased performance as well as increased overall health in your life.
To the hip. New runner.
Hey everybody, Coach Kirsten here from Invictus Fitness in San Diego, and I'm here to discuss with you 3 reasons why we should be incorporating nasal breathing into our workout programs. Reason number 1 to incorporate nasal breathing into your fitness program is that nasal breathing will optimize your breathing position. What I mean by that is you can inhale through your nose or through your mouth. Only one of those is going to connect you to your diaphragm. And our diaphragm is our primary respiratory muscle. It is designed to pull oxygen deep down into the lower lungs, expand all the way into the belly, take a full deep breath. When we breathe through our mouth, we tend to rely on secondary respiratory muscles. Those would include our pecs, our upper traps, the muscles in our neck, the scalenes. The problem with that is when we rely on secondary muscles to perform work, it's an example of non-optimized movement. This is more clearly explained in the example of a movement exercise. So if I asked you to do a thruster in a workout, the athlete that is able to keep their chest upright and keep their torso really vertical in the bottom of their squat is going to be expending far less energy to do those repetitions of thrusters in the workout than the athlete that has a compromised position. So if there's somebody that they've got bad mobility, they can't get the barbell to rest in a good front rack so their elbows are dropped, or in the bottom of their squat, their chest is way down, they're going to be expending far more energy to do the same number of reps and move the same load as the athlete that can maintain an optimal position. And what that's an example of is optimizing position and being efficient in our movement for long-term increased performance over time. So you might not notice a difference in energy expenditure in breathing poorly, using our mouth and requiring on the neck and the traps to do your breathing during minute 2 or minute 3 in your workout. But you will by minute 10, 20, 30, and beyond. It's going to lead to a poor postural position. We're going to roll the shoulders forward. We won't be able to take in as deep of a breath, and now we're in a state of fatigue and we aren't breathing as optimally and efficiently as we could. Reason number 2 is that developing the ability to nasal breathe is going to lead to an increase in fitness and performance. So essentially, our brain has these receptors that are constantly measuring the volume of CO2 in our body, and those sensors tell us when to respire. They signal the body to take a breath, and those sensors are going to become more or less tolerant of CO2 accumulation, and that can happen due to a variety of factors. How frequently we breathe, how we breathe, how much we exercise, how many breaths we take, a bunch of things. But essentially, when we breathe through our mouth, we offload a much larger volume of CO2 than when we breathe through our nose. It's just simple volume here. Our mouth is bigger than our nostrils, so when we breathe through our mouth, we're dumping a lot of CO2. And when we do that, what happens is the sensors in our brain, they just kind of over time get used to having a decreased tolerance of CO2 accumulation. A main problem with that is that oxygen in the presence of CO2 is more likely to unbind from hemoglobin and be delivered to our working muscle tissues. So it's kind of this double-edged sword. Our brain sensors, if they're intolerant of CO2 accumulation, are going to tell us to respire to offload CO2. But oxygen is more efficiently delivered to working muscles in the presence of CO2. So we can use nasal breathing as a tool to essentially recalibrate the sensors in our brain to become more tolerant of CO2 accumulation. If we are constantly during our daily life practicing nasal breathing and periodically during our workouts incorporating nasal breathing in our workouts, we are going to teach our body to essentially recalibrate and set a new homeostasis and become more tolerant of CO2 accumulation, which will lead to an increase in performance down the road because we will more efficiently deliver oxygen from hemoglobin to our working muscles in the presence of increased CO2. Reason number 3 why we should be incorporating nasal breathing into our fitness program is that it is going to teach you and allow you to stay in control. What I mean by that is that how we breathe correlates to a cascade of autonomic nervous system responses within our body. So breathing through our nose is going to take us to a parasympathetic state response. You might relate that towards rest and digest, a calmer, cooler state of being. Breathing through our mouth is going to push us towards a sympathetic state of being, frequently known as fight or flight, or just a more amped up, hype state of being. Both have their time and place, but not all exercise should be done and performed in a sympathetic state. And this kind of starts to tie into lifestyle as well as exercise, in that our body can't tell the difference between good stress and bad stress. And lots of things cause us stress in our life. Stress could come from our professional careers, our home life, busy jobs, busy family, kids, things to do, places to go, as well as working out is a form of stress, right? And we're asking our body to adapt from that inflicted stress and grow. If you are only performing high intensity exercise, or even it's intended to be low intensity exercise, but you're performing it with mouth breathing and it's taking you to a sympathetic state, you're just digging a hole deeper into your sympathetic nervous system response. And that can cascade with a whole bunch of health effects. So if we can utilize nasal breathing in our workout program, it can essentially kind of bridge that gap between sympathetic state and parasympathetic state. And maybe we start to find that flow state of being, or learning to operate in that focused, relaxed state of being, rather than always amping it up to extreme level 10. And that can be really useful when you have a large volume of work to do. If you have a 20, 30, 60 minute plus conditioning piece, you don't want to be pushed to a state of survival, sympathetic response right off the bat. In conclusion, remember that nasal breathing is just one tool amongst many that you have in your fitness and performance tool bag. You don't need to use it every time you walk into the gym, but it is certainly a tool to be developed that can be utilized to increase your overall performance in the gym as well as your overall health outside of the gym. Hey, ice cream truck.